Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Homeschool Live. And for this edition, we have a special roundtable. And joining me today, I have Scott Clifton from Homeschool Partners and Paul and Gena Suarez from the Old Schoolhouse. So, welcome, everyone. I'll just get to introduce you first and then get you to talk about let our listeners know a little bit more about you. So I'll start with you, Scott. So you have been in the homeschool co-op uh, area
Bracket. Yeah. Okay.
bracket, yes, for quite some time now. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and then Homeschool Partners.
Thanks. Well, I've got 6 homeschool graduates. We've homeschooled all of our kids from the very beginning. And I've got one teenager left. She's 15. We've been homeschooling for a long time, so about 25 years. And I've been running Homeschool Partners, which is a high school co-op that offers college credits for kids in high school. Been doing that since 2002. I do it in person and I do it online as well. Last year I had kids from California to Maine. But love the high school age. They're fun. They're interactive. They are, a joy. I like working with them. So, and of course, we love homeschooling and the Old Schoolhouse as well. So it's an honor to be here. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. And so, Paul and Gena, thank you for being here today. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you for those of us who haven't heard much so far, and tell us a little bit more about the Old Schoolhouse as well.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, we've been around, almost 25 years. Time flies, right? Never thought we would ever really jump into homeschooling as deep as we have. We thought when we first started with our kids, we were just doing our own thing, right? Then we started this little newsletter, became bigger and bigger. Pretty soon it just became a magazine, kind of took over our lives and our careers, really. We did a career change that's with not too much time into it. Honestly, it went fast. And it's just been exciting. It's been an education overall, just with respect to this whole thing we call homeschooling. It's just multifaceted. It's not any one person or any one company or even philosophy. There's a variety of philosophies when it comes to homeschooling within the evangelical church. And then it's been a fun ride ever since.
It has. We've pivoted. We've had to pivot. And Scott, I'll bet you that you can identify a little bit with this. You'll see yourself in this. When you're involved in a company for decades, 2 or 3 decades, you find that the families change, the parents change. It's a different, we have really seen that just with the moms, how different they are today than they were 20, 25 years ago. And I mean, it's a good thing. You just have to learn it and you have to pivot, right? Yeah. And so that's been interesting for us as well. But it's been a neat, wild ride, and we're excited to see what God has for the next 25 years.
Yeah, it is fascinating. The landscape has definitely changed since we first got in it, right? And it continues to change. We're actually living in a time where there's lots of change happening everywhere. So yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. It's interesting that we're seeing more and more pivot towards homeschooling as well. And so we're seeing the numbers continue to rise.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about today is dual enrollment. But before we dive into that, I wanted to ask Scott, since he's been through those high school years. And this is one of the areas that people really struggle with, really question, should I keep homeschooling through those high school years? Because what happens to my child when they graduate? Or, are they going to have opportunities without that high school piece of paper? And so we're always trying to encourage them that there are opportunities. And because of this growth of homeschooling, the opportunities are increasing as well with this. And we're glad. And so we're happy to share that today. But before we do, I just what can you say to these parents who are questioning, should I keep going all the way to school, and what kind of advice can you give?
Well, we were talking a little bit earlier before this, and homeschooling high school begins when the kids are toddlers. And really what you want to transition them to is self learners, really.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is Christian training, and obedience to God, and obedience to your parents, and honor your father and mother, and training little kids. And what happened, well, with all of ours, because we have 5 that are in their 20s and 2 teenagers, and we started very early. I mean, when they were 15 months old, we had them, and my wife and I, trained to obey certain commands. Then as the years go by, you loosen the leash a little bit, and then you're learning. And then there's, if you can teach your kids how to read and the math tables and the read, and just learning opens up to them, and they start, and that's a problem, by the way, with non-homeschoolers. They get to college, and then all of a sudden they're in this atmosphere like, oh, nobody's making me go to classes. I can just do what I want. I can just sleep in, and they go, the F's start rolling in, and so like all of our kids, because my wife taught them all through 8th grade, then gave them over to me through the co-op. I teach this 4 years, but they were all ready to roll. They had all written many essays, and they had all developed a I'm going to learn this myself kind of a thing, self-starter thing. So it wasn't this giant, leap to high school or whatever. And of course, a high school isn't a giant leap to college if your kids want that. If everything's on an incline, you're just, what's the next challenge? And, it wasn't that big of a deal. But the professional education system has convinced parents that they can't teach. There's some magical knowledge that they don't have access to. It's like they don't have the key. We're taught these things in education schools that only a certain select people know. It's just bunk.
Right.
It goes better for. I actually taught in a government school for 1 year of math, high school math. Well, I was a zookeeper for 1 year. Is basically what it was. But you'd run into these kids. I was a 31-year-old rookie. This is 2001. But I would run into these kids. They're 22, 23, and they just carried an air of, these parents are all stupid. Even though they're twice my age, literally, they don't know as much as I've been to education school. And I can tell you from experience, and anybody who's been homeschooled, and Gena and Paul, they'll tell you, it's complete bunk. You know your kids.
Yeah.
In fact, years ago, I read many studies by Brian Ray from the National Education Research Institute, and he's shown that even a parent who has only a 3rd grade education, her kids will do better than a mom that has a doctoral degree or master's degree or whatever and doesn't homeschool. So it's that personal attention.
That's right.
And in tuneness, you know your own kids way better than any high school teacher out there of any kind, with 22 other kids screaming, throwing knives and texting and whatever they're doing. It just you can do it. They can do it. And you know what? And Christians have an advantage. Not that our kids are going to be geniuses, but God answers prayers. He answered many of those. So millions of parents, Christian parents, can attest to this. So if you're out there going, I don't think I can do it. Yeah, you can. God can do it with you. I mean, you can do it with God, but it's absolutely, and the rewards, and I'm trying to go on too long, but I mean, rewards are, we have 5 adult children. 3 of them are married. They are our absolute best friends. Their spouses are our best friends. They're best friends with each other. And again, it started when they were toddlers.
That's right.
Nope, you're going to get along. Nope, you're going to obey mom and dad. Nope, God wants us to do this and that. And then that success at school and reading and science and things like that, that's a byproduct of character training.
Right.
We're not doing this to make our kids geniuses or whatever. We're doing it because we want them to follow the Lord. And that's just a happy, pleasant byproduct, having a nice work ethic. And whether it's on a baseball team or a Bible, bee or a job at Chick-fil-A or anything like that. It's just a side product. It's what you get when you train them in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. So everybody can do this.
That's right. Yeah, it's so true.
It's kind of funny. You went from zookeeper to homeschool dad. Not a huge transition there, right?
The taser size is a little different. So.
No, but you're so right. It starts with the foundational principle here is that in order to teach a child any discipline, you first have to get them to where they are disciplined, right?
Yeah.
They're able to listen to authority, respect authority, and all that. And it's interesting because that's exactly the contrast we have now between, not to focus too much on the flaws of public school, but that's a huge thing that's missing in public schools now. There is no discipline. There is no respect for authority or teachers or instructors. And you read the headlines every day about the chaos that's going on in schools,
Yeah.
I think it was in South Carolina where a student was, I guess, arrested for slapping a teacher several times.
Yeah.
I read that and it's like, that is just off the charts there. Right. But,
it's more and more common though.
But it's happening a lot. And so by God's grace, we just naturally don't have that in homeschooling because the whole philosophy is completely different. And it leads to those things you were talking about, Scott, about it's not a big step from elementary to high school to college. It's just a natural transition.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little incline. Yeah. And like I did the year I did in public high school, that was 2000, 2001. And I got death threats from students. There was a lockdown with a shooter. There were, I had kids that I would just say, I'd stay at the door and say, no, you're not coming in here. We're doing less than 50 if you want, but you're not coming in here. I'll count you as present. Oh, here's a bathroom pass. Just don't come in, because they were discipline problems, and they would not help me out. And all my own personal kids were completely obedient. That was just a weird kind of a thing, but that was a generation ago. Can you imagine what it's like now? And if you don't think you can high school your homeschool kids, I mean, take a leap of faith. The alternative is just untenable. We can't. And it's not just physical danger. It's influencing kids to transition, brainwashing stuff all day long. When I was a kid in the 70s and the 80s, and all those different schools I went to in 2 different states, there were numerous times in elementary and they called it junior high and high school that the teachers would tell us, we're watching a film strip in class today. Don't tell your parents. They would do, and of course, or they would say, here's a survey about your personal family habits and things. Don't tell mom and dad. This is just for us to know. I didn't tell them. I didn't know. I was just like 8 or 11 or 14 years old. I didn't really. Of course, now they don't care what you think. They just go right to your face and dare you to do anything about it. So, if nothing else, a fear of the horrible should really compel all of us to stay through high school. I mean, if you taught your kids to be self-learners, and you're already halfway there. And there are a lot of other ways you can. Paul and Gena and Christine, we were all talking about homeschool conventions a few minutes ago, and that's one of the things we did with our kids. Is we go, okay, what science would you like? Oh, let's do biology. Okay, well, that's one of the things I think we should do. Okay, you go out there and find a good biology curriculum. You go down the aisles. We'll pay for it, and as long as you put us in a nice nursing home when we're older, we'll pay for it. But they've got some skin in the game, and they come back and go, what's right. It's okay. Yeah, that looks pretty. Okay, now you're going to finish this, right? Okay, it looks pretty tough. Now you have to finish this up. Let's map it out, and then when they are involved in it, you're not just doing it to them. There's a balance of doing that, but that we found that really helpful as well too. So
that's exactly what the colleges are saying. When you go to any homeschool convention, you will see rows and rows of colleges, universities, even Ivy League ones recruiting homeschool kids, and they're wanting to talk to those parents, and those kids are like in 7th and 8th grade because they want homeschooled kids on their campuses. They know they're not going to tear them up. They know the kids are self-governed. For the most part, they sit in the front row. They make eye contact. They're tutoring the other kids, students, and they want those kids because, like we were talking about a minute ago, that transition, that gentle incline for homeschoolers, and especially if they do dual enrollment, that transition is so smooth, and the colleges already want them. And so one of the things that I'm curious about, I know that Christine has questions that she'd like to ask, but I'm hoping that we can talk a little bit today about how college entrance officers, how they view dual enrolled high schoolers, because from what I've heard, and my kids haven't done that. We've done different things with our kids. We have 7. They've done very different things. They did college, some of them, but we never did dual enrollment. But we've looked into it a lot, and we've had a lot of magazine articles on it, which I would love to get you slated, Scott, for some. Have you written for the magazine?
I have not. No.
It would be great to get you in there for sure. And I'll have our senior editor, Christine, maybe you could introduce him to Deborah Wooler after this. But I think it's so valuable. And I feel like that those college entrance officers, they view those kids even more favorably. Is that something that you have found?
You're asking Christine or asking
Scott,
Yeah,
that's for you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's the same kind of thing. They look at that and they go, they've already had a couple of semesters under their belt. And
Yes.
surprisingly, you will see kids that are, I hate to say, everybody's a genius in something, but even kids who you wouldn't peg as a, genius or whatever, they're just, they work hard. And they can pass these classes. And in my homeschool co-op, I've had kids come back like when they're 22 and come back and go, hey, good to see you again. It's been years, but they go, by the way, your classes were harder than a lot of the year one or year two classes.
That's
I'm
right.
like, I didn't need them to be. I just was tough or whatever. So they're used to challenges and things like that. Yeah. So it's not that big a deal.
Exactly.
And they want that kind of stuff, and they know, like you said, they're not going to be the ones, getting drunk and spray painting the
right.
and falling out of the fourth floor and and all this kind of stuff. But
or taking over the campus,
right,
and living there,
putting up flags and taking down other ones. But
exactly,
we can get into that. But I'll tell you. But one thing that I would really caution, like parents, especially before they dual enroll, is. Because I dual enrolled when I was a senior back in 1912, pretty much. Anyway. But I'm thinking, is this work going to be too hard? Is it going to be fair? And the answer was, there was so much bias in these classes, even in the mid 80s. So that is a big deal if you're going to do dual enrollment. And I've been recommending people that they steer toward Christian colleges and Christian dual enrollment rather than just going, oh, let's go to the local community college. I did the rounds of homeschool conventions with my classes this past year. And I told my wife, Julie, I was like, we're just going to have to get a Kleenex box and just put it permanently on my table, because everywhere we went, we had these people just sobbing and telling these horror stories of their kids in the local dual enrollment community colleges. The bias. The one lady was like, this is Orlando, Florida. She said, in our homeschool co-op, the last 2 years, we've had 12 girls transition.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, because of the influence of the dual enrollment and their they thought, we're just going to get free college, and they had no idea what the price was.
That's interesting. So, wow. Okay.
Yeah, in Asheville, where I live, close to Asheville, we have professors that brag openly that they're going to undo 10 years of your Christian homeschooling in one semester. You watch us do it.
Wow.
And the parents go, I hope it works out okay. And then, it doesn't. It's like content. That's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, kindergarten through high school, is content.
Yeah.
So I would present that as, man, that's so important. And there are a lot of alternatives out there.
Yes.
Well, that's no longer education. If you have an instructor with that kind of attitude, they're activists. They're no longer instructors.
Indoctrination is all.
Yeah. And with the success of homeschooling, I know in our county, and I've talked to people in Virginia and Florida and South Carolina and Georgia and so on, and you hear stories that they're losing thousands and thousands and thousands of students to homeschooling. Even people who I'd never homeschooled, but they're like, forget this. I can't do this anymore. So these public schools are fighting back, because every kid's like a $15,000-$16,000 walking check every year. You lose a kid for 12 years, that's like a couple of $100,000 and more. So they're fighting back, and one of the ways they are fighting back is roping in former homeschoolers to dual enrollment. And unfortunately, without checking it out, a lot of parents are taking the bait. But it's you gotta. If nothing else, I would say, okay, give me the syllabus. Let me see exactly the things we're reading in your class.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah,
and even then, it can be. I ran into a kid in Virginia. Long story short, he took a Comp 1 class, and besides the trash that they were reading, which is just beyond belief. It's something you would just, it's shocking, the stuff they're reading. Like all the great canon of literature, they even choose this. You know,
Yeah, right.
there are good books written before 1997. You know, but the whole grade was 10 papers, 100 points, 1,000 points total. Well, he had like a 96 average after 9 papers. I mean, he could have blown his nose on a napkin and turned that in for the 10th one and still got a B class. But the last paper was something that the teacher disagreed with him on. She not only gave him a 0 for the 10th paper, she gave him an F for the entire class, which is not mathematically possible. She went to the dean, the mother did. The dean said, "Get out before I call the police." She had So that kind of stuff does happen. They feel very empowered, teachers do, because they have the power of the state behind them. I don't care what you do. I mean,
it's a systemic problem, right?
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. And we need to know that. We need to just wake up and, we need to be sober about this and not pretend that it's something that is rare. It's become quite normal.
The regular.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The stuff they used to do in secret, they just do openly now. They don't even, well, obviously we've seen many things politically that have been they're just completely open in this country that they used to try to hide, but not anymore. But,
not only do they don't just hide it, now they celebrate it. I mean, they're proud of it.
Yeah. You could say flaunt.
Yeah,
it is. But I mean, we thought, okay, because a couple of our kids did some, dual enrollment in high school, but it was very, we were very careful about which classes they were allowed to take. Let me see the syllabus. Let me see the reading material, their film clips and things like that you require, all the articles that you require. And then a couple of times we even said, this is even at a Christian college. So you have to check those out too, because you get a lot of these like liberation theology, and Jesus was a hippie socialist, colleges.
Right.
They're Christian, they're like, their statement of faith will make you cry, but if you look in there in the classes, you're like, what? This can't be any different like UC Berkeley. Come on, but it was very controlled. And a couple of our kids did. Our oldest earned his bachelor's degree in about 2.5 years online. And our second oldest earned just an associate's, and she just said, "I've had it. I'm done. I just want more." So, if you want to do college for your post high school student, I'm sure everybody would agree, just recommend just checking them out really carefully, and then, just making sure the classes are ones that you would agree with, and taking it from there. But
this is good. And so on the line of, choosing dual enrollment, now that we've kind of painted the picture of what it looks like out there in reality, and what Christian homeschool parents need to face. Scott, can you just give us tell us what dual enrollment actually is for those of us who are still with young kids and need to start thinking about what this looks like going forward. And I know you kind of hinted as we were talking about some of the things that we need to look for in getting involved in dual enrollment, but just give us maybe 3 key things that we should be looking for as we consider all of this.
Well, dual enrollment itself just means students in high school, and let's say takes a biology class and earns, let's say, like 1 credit for biology throughout the entire year. If it's a 1 semester or half year class, it's like half a credit. But the student can take a class at a local community college or a Christian college online. They can be live each week. My classes, I do live 50 minutes a week with the kids, and they do the work at home. Some Christian colleges do it asynchronously, which means the kids can go watch the teacher's lectures anytime they want to. It's good for schedules and so on. But they get, for example, biology, let's say it's 10th grade or 11th grade, whatever. They get a credit for high school, 1 credit. And then for college, they would get 3 credits probably. Most of the time, most classes are 3 credits unless they have a lab or something like that. So they can build up credits. And I was the oldest when I was a kid. So when I went to University of Central Florida, and I was kind of confused, like your first semester is chemistry and algebra and U.S. history. I'm thinking, or a couple of more, but I was like, I already took all those classes in high school. What am I taking those again for? That's not part of my major, but there's like 2 years of retread of high school. And of course it's nice and biased, it's brainwashing time for a lot of these colleges.
Yeah,
Then you get into 1 year of electives, 10 classes, and then like 10 classes of your major. And to me, I'd be like, let's just skip all this, this 2 years of retread. But in my classes, what I'm trying to do is help kids who want to get a 2-year degree, maybe, or even more. They can kind of like go through those classes and not get woked up, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But typically a dual enrollment class lasts 1 semester. So depending on the college, they can be 8 weeks. I've talked to a lot of Christian colleges. They have 8-week classes. Some have 6-week classes. Some are 15 or 16 weeks, and so on. So there's just a variety of that. The kids can be earning. In other words, they want to be a journalist. They could get by the time they finish high school, get a couple of years, maybe, or 1.5 years, or 1 year out of the way. So they can kind of it not only keeps them from having to do the landmine of these, woked up professors and wonder if they're going to, parents are going to brainwash them, or they're going to give them an F. It not only gets them out of doing that, it saves them time, really, like a year, or even and money too. But there are even a lot of Christian colleges that are very inexpensive classes out there. So, I always recommend to parents, don't go the community college route unless you know the professor or know the content. Yeah. Like if it's like chemistry or algebra 2 or whatever, that's a different thing. But if it's $300 or $400 for some dual enrollment class, I tell the parent, just go for it. Make the kids earn a little bit of the money. They got skin in the game. And then it's worth not losing your kids to the brainwashing, because they're really doing hard line stuff in there. And a lot of parents go, oh, my 14 to 15-year-old is ready for dual enrollment. Maybe. If you got a 40-year-old professor in there that'll flunk you or relentlessly attack, some kids just aren't ready for that.
That's right.
Doing dual enrollment, especially like with a Christian college, it not only saves time and money, it gives the kids like a year to mature. They get a little bit more, maybe apologetics, or maybe a little more Christian worldview. They can kind of fight back if they have to nicely. if they run into that kind of thing at a college professor at a 4-year institution, or even at a community college, if they want to continue that.
Right. So how does Homeschool Partners fit into that? What do you offer? What do you like? If we had, we have a daughter, Susanna. She's number 5. We have 7. No, she's number 4. I always forget.
Too hard to count, right?
She's 5. Yeah, she's number 5.
Oh wow!
See that? Anyway,
at least you remember her name. That's more than I do.
Yeah, number 4. Number 4 is already married and has 3 kids. But number 5, Susanna, she's 16 and she skipped a couple grades. She's real smart, and so she is graduating right now this month from high school. We didn't do any dual enrollment or anything like that, and I'd love to know what options. Because I agree with you. I really am not interested in sending her to the local junior college. We're just not. We know that we watch the news, so we know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You're awake. Yeah.
You're right.
Not woke, but definitely awake. And so I'd love to know, what do you offer? Obviously with her, she's already done, but we also have 2 more kids that are coming up. Chloe is going into 9th grade, you see. And so I'm interested. I'd like to do dual enrollment at some point with some of our kids. The others we did not. So what do you offer? How can you help a family like us when it's time for Chloe to dual enroll?
Well, I offer 10 different classes, which is 30 credits. It's American government, American literature, Comp 1, Comp 2, U.S. History 1, U.S. History 2, British literature, Western Civ 1, Western Civ 2, and world literature. So that's 10 different classes. Some of them are 1 semester, some of them are full semesters. But we meet online once for 50 minutes a week, and then they do the rest of the work. Like, let's say it's week 10. Okay, guys, watch your week 9 notes. Let's talk about American government, whatever. Right. And I work with a Christian university in Nebraska. I met him in a homeschool convention several years ago. And I was, at that point, we were talking before this, we started officially here, but about going to conventions, what we got out of it. I was just going around, my wife was manning the booth, but it was like, I would just go to colleges and say, here's my idea. You want to partner and do this maybe? And most of them looked at me like I was, from Neptune or something. I was like, okay, next. But York University was like, let's talk about this. So anyway, they ground they ran my curriculum through this coffee grinder, and then I was like, you feel like you're being, audited by the IRS or whatever. But they said, yeah, we'll do this. They have to do a project, which is some kind of a writing project, which I very sneakily spread over weeks and months so the kids don't feel it. And they upload it. And then, I just finished my second year of doing this, and, had 50 kids in my classes this past year.
That's cool.
From, California to Washington, Maine, Florida, all that kind of thing. Nobody in Canada, Christine, sorry. Yeah.
Hopefully one day.
As a former British colony ourselves, we salute you and so on. Yeah. But it was, they sign up for a free account at York. They do the work. They take their tests and quizzes, and they submit their compositions online. I grade them all. I send the grades to York, and at the end, there's 3 more credits. There's another 3 credits, and so on. They can get 30, and they can keep going if they want to. I'm working right now. I'm trying to find another Christian university that has more classes that the kids can kind of like. I can just go, okay, hey, now you've got 30 with me. Go over here.
Yeah.
Ideally, still in high school, and get these other 10 classes, and then get your associates and wrap that up. Or at least, it can apply for 60 credits for, a bachelor's degree if you want to transfer somewhere. And York is nationally accredited. It's the same as Notre Dame and Ohio State University and so on. So everywhere I've ever called, the classes that I teach, the credits transfer. Secular universities, community colleges, Christian universities, pretty much everywhere. There are a couple of Christian universities that have a certain setup. They do things their way, and it's which was great. But there's a lot of nice kids. We have good discussions, and I just feel like it's adding another layer of maybe some apologetics, and we're doing American government, and or economics, they get out of it. And I'm not like all parents, Christian parents, you want to be able your kids to go, I want to explain what I believe about economics or government or history because of my Christian faith. And, that's to me, that's a big part of it. But it's been a lot of fun. Those high schoolers are something.
Yes. That is super.
Yeah.
I love that. And Paul and Gena have taught us over at TOS that, homeschooling is about discipleship. And I don't know, Paul, if you want to just go a little bit on that whole idea, and then, why it's important to guide our children's education in this way so that we can avoid all of
Well, and you kind of touched on that earlier, Scott, even though you didn't actually use the phrase or the word discipleship, right?
That's what it
is. The way you were describing education earlier, and this whole thing about dual enrollment and looking forward to the final stage, which would be, the higher education, the pitfalls that are there with the secular institutions, right?
Yeah.
Our concern isn't so much, well, this kid is on a track to get career is not the main thing. Right. It's just the natural. We look at our children and we try to figure out what is their God-given or God-ordained natural calling, right? And then we look at education as a kind of like a roadmap and a track or a road to accomplish that, to get there, right?
Right.
But the difference basically is the distinction between discipleship and accomplishing what God has for their life, as opposed to let's get this career, let's grab it, we're going to make it big, right? Money, all of that.
Yeah.
So,
beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. But it's so, like I said, I have 5-6 adult children. Some of them are going to stop at associates. Some of them never went to college at all. I have one son who went for a year, and he's like, I feel like I have so much more stuff to do than sit here and take these classes. I'm like, go for it, man.
Right.
Work, do what you want, start a business, start a family business, anything, just pray about what you want to do and, work hard. And again, one of the happy side effects of Christian homeschooling is that your kids, I'm sure Paul and Gena, you can attest this, all of your kids, everybody would consider them smart, but you're thinking they're just good workers, and I think everybody can succeed like this. You could take, I could go into public high school and just grab 20 kids and take them and start homeschooling them. And within 2 or 3 weeks, probably I would, well, I'd be arrested for kidnapping for one thing, but I mean, they would do better, they do better, homeschooling. You can take kids in the homeschool and they'd be more successful. But the Christian part of it is the one that has so many happy side effects. And
right.
I'm sure you guys, Paul and Gene, you're adult kids. You're like, let's say they get fired. Let's say your son gets fired from his job. You're not worried because they have that inner, first off, God is helping them in their lives, and second, they have that work ethic and desire to go out and serve God and find another job. And
amen.
So many different neat things, with that happen with Christian homeschool.
Yeah, it's that God factor. I hate to put it in such crass terms. Maybe just the simple acknowledgement that God is, and He is in charge, and He has ordained a plan for my life. That makes all the therein lies the difference right there between what the world offers and what we recognize just as Christians, right? We recognize that we're put here for a purpose, and education is just a part of that process,
right?
To fulfill God's purpose in our life.
Yeah,
right
with our favorite little people, with our favorite little people, our kids, And we were Christine, you were saying earlier, like, oh well, I can do it in, we were talking earlier about in elementary, then middle school, then really you go, okay, would you, like, for the parents who are thinking about quitting in high school, you wouldn't say, oh well, third grade is higher than second grade, I can't do that, that's whatever. Well, it's the same thing. Seventh grade, I can but not eighth grade. Well, it's just the next year. Eighth grade and ninth grade, it's just one more year. Nothing magical happens over the summer to except for the boys grow 8 inches and
you're right.
But like nothing happens magical. It's like we plan for the next year, and we have to all and Paul and Gena have done this with all their kids. Is you get over that trepidation of don't let the world intimidate us.
Right.
There's look how it's funny. It cracks me up hearing people go, oh, you can't the education, all that. Like, you mean the same institution is turning out illiterates that they can't find Canada on a map in our country.
Right.
It's like it's just it's incredible that they're telling us how we're doing things wrong. You're like, no, we're tutors, and not only that, we're tutoring kids we love the best in the world. Of course it's going to be successful. But
it's all about breaking that mold, that idea that school has to look like this, and no, it doesn't. It can look like what we are doing, what we are shaping here with Christian homeschooling. And I'll tell you, I think I've said it here before, but I am the black sheep in my circle, where I am the only one homeschooling, and I feel the opposition all the time. Okay, they're not being socialized, or all those silly myths. And all of that stuff. And then I say, but look at my kids. And then they're always amazed, like how you were saying, they're so smart. They're well socialized. They know how to speak to people. No problem. Like, people would say, they're not afraid to talk to people. They're not afraid to talk to adults. I'm like, well, yes, because this is their life. And then, they tell me, oh, well, you're just going to do elementary school, right? So when they're in high school, you're going to put them, and I'm like, no. So it's this constant battle. And so for anybody listening that you're also in that same boat, keep pushing, keep going, because I am so encouraged that there are these opportunities, and I have it down on my plan to get involved in dual enrollment. And I'm hoping, right now in Canada where I am, there's not many options right now. There are but they're kind of far, and this and that, the other. But I know that the doors are opening. And so by the time we get there, I have a little bit more years to go with my 12-year-old. So we're getting there. So I'm hoping that all of those doors are going to be open and ready, so I can keep going in the way that I know God is calling me to do, to bring them through. And so thank you for doing your part in all of this. And do you have any final words of advice for our homeschooling parents, Scott?
I would say character is that big issue that, a lot of Bible reading and training provides. And, if kids, have that work ethic and that respect and healthy fear of God, it is such a game changer. And, I would say there are so many more, and Paul and Gena, I'm sure you can back this up, one generation with these, TikTok and FaceTube and, Instatac and all these, all the time wasters and things like that. Do whatever you can to get your kids off of those.
Yes.
Homeschooling is a lot more time efficient, even in high school, than sitting there for 10 hours a day, riding the bus, 7 hours, riding the bus back, homework and 2 hours homework. But don't let your kids use that extra time to just waste it. There's so many things they can do. I mean, it is, and it's just a transition into adulthood. And I'm sure Paul and Gene, you can back this up too. Like, we know so many kids, homeschool kids, who are married at 20 or 19, or they have business at 21.
Yep.
And we've pushed off adulthood so far in this country,
That's right.
But homeschoolers is just a natural progression and of course, we as parents, we kind of act like, oh yeah, everybody does the same thing. Of course, their kids don't find out, hardly anybody does this except for us and other Christian homeschoolers. But that's secret information we withhold from our kids until they're out. But it's a pleasure. I mean, it's been so much fun, and I'm sure the Suarez say the same thing. Their kids are our best friends. It's so worth it. They're all following the Lord. They've married well, and homeschooling through high school is beyond belief what the blessings are.
Yes,
Amen.
We agree.
Amen.
100%. We definitely agree. So how can people find you? Can you give us some information, just a website, and what kind of information you might be able to, do you have any kind of demos or brochures and things like that if someone's watching, that they can find out more?
Yeah, you can just go to homeschoolpartners.net and /online. And on the very homepage, it'll point you to, there are a couple of short videos on how the classes work, but a lot of information right there. I'm in the process of putting up things like a syllabus and a summary and a schedule and a rubric for each class. And just to make it really clear what's expected. There's nothing unusual. I'm just blessed to found that York University that was willing to work with me and do that. And the kids in the classes, man, we've had it's just been killer. These discussions we have, and their attention and their input, and those like online, you hear blink, 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 when they raise their hands like electronically or whatever. I'm just like, okay, I'll try to get to all you guys. But it's a lot of fun though. I love these kids and their ages. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Gena, you were saying something.
That is great. That is so great. Well, I'm interested in hearing more and learning more. And I will tell you, with our readers, these parents, most of our readers have their ideology is, I'm in a homeschool through high school. They want to do that. So I feel like that you would be answering some questions if we had you maybe write some articles. So again, Christine will, and also Christine, you might mention to Deborah, homeschool dads, the homeschool dad column and the homeschool minute, things like that would be really nice to get Scott in there perhaps. So definitely introduce them if you would.
Yeah, I've actually read a bunch of Todd Wilson's articles in there. I met him one time, but
he's great.
I'm on his Family Man weekly email, so I love that guy.
He is super. He is wonderful. Super down to earth.
Yes.
Well, we will have that your link in the comments so that people can just go click through. So, and if you're watching and you've got burning questions, feel free to put your questions in the comments, and we will get them over to Scott, or Scott can hop on and answer them. Sure. And we'll wrap up for today. Thank you so much, Scott, Paul, and Gena for talking today about dual enrollment and sharing your words of wisdom with those of us who are still, just in the beginning stages of homeschooling, and for those of us who are just right there and ready to make those decisions about homeschooling through high school, through the high school years. And we're just so thankful for everything. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again on another Homeschool Live.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Scott.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you all so much. Thank you.